Hello YouTube, I'm doing a slightly new video here. This is a pretty different approach than my normal videos. I want to talk about my story, my life story, because someday I'm not going to be here, and if I have kids someday or whatever happens down the pike, I want my story to be out there. I want to talk about my story, and I was going to do like a book, but it never happened. I ain't got time for that, so I'm going to be doing a video form. This might be a multi-part video, or it might just be one really long, rambling video, and I apologize for that. If you wish to watch it, feel free. This is for a lot of people who either want to know more, don't understand, or have somebody with a disability. This is my story of living with one, from when I was a kid to present day. So without further ado, I want to begin the story starting with my early childhood. So for those who don't know, I grew up in the 2000s, which to me was the peak of rap music and hip hop and club music. The music in the 2000s was amazing. But we're not talking about the music. We're talking about me. And when I was really young, I had some developmental issues where I was a very late bloomer at things. I took a long time to learn how to talk, took a long time to learn how to walk or really do anything. And my parents had me go to like therapy appointments and everything. And at the time, my disability wasn't really known at all. It was a fairly new thing. Some of you probably already know what I'm talking about. Other ones are probably like, what? Probably 2003 or 2004, I was tested and diagnosed with autism, high functioning autism, which means that I have autism, but it's not going to really affect me in the ways that like the lower functioning would be. You know, I'm still able to do things, but I have it. And usually people that have the higher functioning side of things tend to be very mechanically inclined, very hyper focused on things of that nature, and I am no exception. When I was about 5 or 6, I got a Lasco box fan from my grandmother, and I tore that thing apart. I didn't rip it apart the way that I normally would rip a fan apart now to service it, but for a kid, taking the grills and the blade off the fan to clean it and put it back together was pretty impressive for a 5-year-old kid to do. 6 or 7 comes around, and I get a ceiling fan from my aunt. And it was a store display model, so it didn't have any wiring. Motor wasn't even wound, but I completely ripped the fan apart, dissected it, and I put the entire thing back together by myself. I was 7 years old, and I was completely rebuilding my first fan. So while most kids are outside playing with hoses or sprinklers and some other shit, I'm in the house rebuilding a ceiling fan that my aunt gave me because it didn't work, just to have fun with it. And around that time, between 2005 and 2006, I started school. Might have been 2004. I went to pre-K, and I don't really remember much about my early years of schooling, but I do remember from like first grade to high school. And first grade was rough, because around that time is when they started putting me on different medications for the autism and my attention. My attention span in school was horrific throughout the whole time I was in school. I had trouble focusing. I had trouble paying attention in class. You know, the lessons. Because I'm very hands-on, and a lot of the classes, they were very, you look at the board, you write down what you see type of thing. I don't really learn that way. I'm very hands-on. I have to actually physically be doing something to understand it. So, to me, I struggled a lot in school because it just was a hard time for me to understand basic things in school. I'm not saying I'm stupid, but I'll admit my brain just would not let me learn. Come around 3rd grade, 2nd grade, I got diagnosed with ADHD, and they put me on all kinds of different medications, one of which was called Prozac. Um, and Prozac was not good for me, but they had me on it pretty much my whole time in school. It really messed with my head and kind of made me like a zombie, where I focused, but I was miserable, and I was on such a high dosage in second grade that they wouldn't listen to me at all. The doctor I had, and basically just kept upping it. Every time I saw him, he kept upping it. And I said, I don't feel good. I don't want to take it. And he just kept upping it. And it got to the point where I was having these overstimulated attacks, and I was legit just crashing out in school. And the people that remember me from school remember I used to be like bad. Like I was throwing cans at teachers' heads and flipping out over stupid things. I couldn't help it. The medication was so high, my brain was just overstimulating itself, and I was just freaking out for no reason whatsoever. It's just happening. And then third grade, they kind of toned it down because I was on a couple other things, but I don't remember what half these names are anymore. But I remember Prozac, and Prozac was the one that I had the biggest problems with. Growing up, the hardest part for me was the transition from middle school to high school. I had a lot going on at the time, just basic puberty mixed with the medications I was on. I really felt depression a lot more than other people would, and I had a lot of episodes, and the doctors put me on a different medication, but they kept me on the Prozac, but they put me on something else that was supposed to go with it. It was this other guy. He was just a pill pusher, I'll be completely real with you. He struggled to listen to me at all, and just kept putting me on these medications. And one of them, I don't remember the name of it, but I'm sure somebody here knows exactly what I'm talking about. It was he said at the time, a prototype or early form of I think he said it was an epilepsy medication that was also supposed to work as an antidepressant that amplified things through the roof. It did the exact opposite of what it was supposed to. And I had another episode, and this one contributed to me saying certain things that aren't really appropriate for the YouTube, and not really appropriate to say to you guys. Since I have some younger fans here, and trying to keep things respectful. Minus maybe a couple swears, because this is how I am. I cuss a little bit. I apologize for that. I know it's not proper, but it's just the way I am. So I was on that for a while, and then probably around 10th grade, I pretty much quit medications cold turkey. I quit everything cold turkey 12th grade, my senior year. The problem was with school, why I didn't learn, is because I'm very mechanical minded, and school is not very hands-on friendly. However, that changed, I believe, 10th grade. Unfortunately, the guy running it is no longer with us. I unfortunately heard about his passing probably last year, half a year ago now. He was the head of a club in my school called the Radio Club, the Ham Radio Club. And there was a few other kids in there, and we ended up being pretty good friends. We kind of fell out of contact now, but, I still would say we're friends. And it was a whole club of 3 people and the school janitor that we'd hang out in the basement of the school. They had like a little workshop. They normally would park the machines there and work on them, but we would go there twice a week. I believe it was every Tuesday and Thursday, and we would work on anything we've had. We had old stereos, old radios. I brought in old fans. We'd work on them in My parents weren't home until 5 o'clock at night because they were working. So radio club got out at like 4:30, whatever. We'd be down there for like 2 hours or whatever. None of us wanted to go home, and the school didn't like that because they thought it was weird that the janitor was taking kids in the basement because some idiot, I guess, started a rumor. But we did a lot of stuff in that time frame between 10th and 11th grade that I can't forget that. I cannot forget that. It was amazing. We built we had an old computer server because we worked with the teacher of the computer science classes and everything, and they had an old server tower they were throwing away. We took it and we built a giant ham radio out of this tower that had different radios with different channels set to different frequencies. There was antennas all over this thing. It looked like a fire department vehicle when we were done with it. This thing, we brought it outside. It took us 3 months to build this thing. We brought it outside. We plugged it in, put the antennas up, hooked everything up. And the head of the radio club at the time, which got defunct after a year, which I'm really mad about because that was an amazing club. He called in his ham radio call sign to somebody, and we heard somebody call in back. So he asked, "Where are you from?" And the guy goes, "I'm from Sydney, Australia." We got a radio frequency from Australia on our radio that we all built by ourselves with the guidance of this guy that to most people was just an older man with big glasses. He took us all under his wing and taught us how to build radios and taught us how to work on our own stuff that we didn't understand what. He was the source that taught us everything that we knew. And I really looked up to him a lot. So I'm really sad that he passed. It was sudden. It was really, really sudden. The crazy part is that I continued that kind of education. I went to a vocational school that was tied in with my education. So I'd have a half day at my school and then a half day at this vocational school. And obviously I'm not saying any names here because of privacy of both me and privacy of the individuals that are in the story. I just, out of respect for them, I don't want to give away too much information about things, and also just because I want my privacy respected as well. Just because I talk about things online doesn't mean I want people showing up to my house or harassing me online or harassing other people online. Pretty basic online etiquette, So I would say for me, high school was definitely the best time for me in terms of my education, and then obviously I graduated. And I don't know how I did it, but I managed to actually graduate with a high honor certificate from the vocational school because I was really into what I was doing. I took electrical and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then I also got a New York State Regents diploma, which I'm very proud of. I worked really hard to get that thing. I don't know how I managed to pull it off. It was really, really hard for me to do. But I managed to pass all of my regents that I had. And I got one of the highest grades in my class. So I was happy about that. And then obviously that's the whole aspect of school life for me. I graduated in 2021 with everything, and I was been out of school since. I don't really plan on continuing with education. Might go to some kind of a schooling, a trade school, but that's some point down the road when I actually have the money to do that. Now we're moving on to my adult life, which it's still fairly recent, I would say, considering I've only been out of school a couple of years, but this is where we're pretty much at today. My adult life has been a little different. I pretty much just feel normal. Um, and it's really started around high school. I think it was around 10th grade, which I think would have been like 2018. I could be wrong. Somewhere around then. It was 2018. The fan hobby has always been there. That was kind of my main problem with getting bullied in school was the fan hobby and just the weirdness of it. There was really nothing nefarious about it. It's just a hobby for me, but it's the hyper fixating I think kind of got people like, yo, what the hell is wrong with you? So, anyway, there's a fan meet, a fan collectors meet I heard about for a couple of years. I joined the community in 2016, and I was doing a little talking on the forums and everything. 2018 rolls around, and I go to Zionsville, Indiana, for the first time. First time I ever leave my home state, besides going up to Pennsylvania. I leave my state to go all the way to Indiana to go to a fan collectors swap meet and a fan collecting museum tour, which everybody here knows and loves. Fanimation group trip. It was the first one I've ever been to, the first fan meet I've ever been to, and the first fan collector related thing I've ever been to in my life. First time I ever met another person that had the same hobby as me. It was such a surreal experience that I felt like I went to Disney. It was insane. It was insane. I went in that museum and I was just blown away by all the antiques. I went up to the second floor and I saw all kinds of people running around. They were checking out the fans playing with the remotes and everything. And there was a office space that was like for, I got an itch in my eye, for the the executives or whatever. And I met the CEO of Fanimation, which at the time was Tom Frampton, and very, very, very good guy. I have a lot of respect for Tom. I have a lot of respect for his son, and the staff of Fanimation is amazing. The people that put on that show are amazing people. I don't know how you guys manage to pull it off every year. It's amazing. So I went, and I was young, but I met a few of my friends there. I met Noah. I met my friend Jonah there. He's not really in the community much anymore, but everybody knows him. Jonas fan on YouTube. I met him, and we just had a ball hanging out all day. We were buying fans. We were trading fans like Pokemon cards, running around the parking lot. I remember Noah was running down the parking lot with a crate with a brown Hunter original, just sprinting. And I chased after him. I grabbed the other one. We just ran down the parking lot and put it in his car. It was a fun time. And I went home, and I loved it. I was hooked. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. And then a couple years later, I went back, and same thing. It was a great time. So I started getting more involved with the community. And around 2021, I met another collector, and he pretty much gave me all the insight on all the local meets, because I've lived here my entire life, and I was never part of the AFCA, or I was never really part of like any of the subscription-based forums, because I really just don't have the money to be putting in subscription forums. I was never really one to waste my money on that. I'm still cheap. I'm not saying I'm broke. I'm just admitting I'm cheap. But I get insight, and I went to one of these meets. It was out in New Jersey, and it was pretty nice. It was like a little kind of backyard get together. I forget who hosted this one, but it was a pretty nice meet. They had like a little auction thing. It was like a big yard sale. There was tents, and all the tents were like different things. That's where I met a few of my other friends there, and then that one came and went. I went home from that, and then I went to a couple other ones. And every time I go to these fan meets, I feel normal. because growing up, you know, the whole hobby and then the autism and all the other things, you kind of start thinking like, what the hell is wrong with me? But then you go to these things and you see people just like you running around, and you're like, you're just like, you sit back, especially when you see the kids running around. You sit back and you're like, huh, that was me when I was a kid. Like, I remember, I think it was my second time with animation. I bought a Hampton Bay carousel, which is a ceiling fan that's rainbow colored. It was from the 90s. Had 4 spotlight fixtures on it, 5 blades. And I wanted one just to see how they were, and I thought it'd be kind of a cool fan to make a video of. And my mom calls me up and she's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And I go, okay, what's up? She said, there's this kid here that he really wants this rainbow fan that you got. He really wants it. He's this little kid. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, don't say nothing to him. I want to go talk to him. So I went up to this kid, and he looked like he was about to like do a backflip when he saw this thing. He looked like he was like wanted this thing bad, and I know that because I've been through that. So I said to the kid, I'm like, you want this thing? And he just starts freaking, goes, yeah, I want this, this thing is awesome. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, how much? And my dad already threw a price at him, and I said, how much did my dad offer you for this thing? And I think he said like $20. I'm like, I told him, you know what? I'll tell you what. Give me $5, you can have it. I'll give it to you for $5 because I was in your shoes when I was a kid. And he paid me the $5, and I saw the kid again, and I gave him a Welsh Airflight Hastic fan as a kind of complimentary gift to me. And I thought, if I was in his shoes when I was a kid, I would have loved to have the same thing happen to me. And a couple years later, fast forward to like last year, I get added to this group chat with a bunch of younger collectors. I don't really know how I ended up in there. I always get added to random group chats on Messenger. I'm sure a lot of you guys do. But this kid said, I wanted to add you because I remember you. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't recognize this name. I don't know who this kid is. Because I never got his name at the fan meet. And he said, can you call? I have to show you something, but I want you to call. So I'm like, okay. So I call the phone. Kid picks up. It's a video chat. And he's like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you again. Now this is like 3-4 years later. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you gave me some fans of Fanimation, and I wanted to say thank you, and I still have them. And I'm like trying to put 2 and 2 together, and then he flipped his camera around, and the Hampton Bay carousel was still in his he had it hanging up in his basement room there, a little display, and he still had the Welsh Airflight fan too. And I thought that was the coolest thing, that this kid still had the fans that I gave him in Fanimation. So to me, I was very proud of that. And it's a lot like just a hobby. I enjoy making people happy. So, usually at fan meets, people that know me will know I'll buy a whole bunch of shit and then probably end up giving away half of it. Just because usually I end up biting off more than I can chew, and I end up just giving half of it away out in the parking lot. I'm like, hey, you want this thing? Just take the stupid thing. I don't want it. But yeah. So really, my life with autism, I'd say, is pretty normal, and I hope this kind of gives a little bit of insight. It might have been a little bit more of a rambly type video because I'm not good at these. at all. Like, I don't have the attention span to think out a video, so I just kind of improv them and kind of just pull the cat out of the hat every video I make. I don't rehearse them. But that's my story. I think I pretty much get everything, besides the fact that I process things a little differently, but that's kind of a given considering my story here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something today, and I hope that I inspired somebody in the world to do better, be better, and I hope I inspired somebody who has the autism or has some kind of similarity to me that's struggling in life a little bit. I want to see everybody that watches this video succeed. I want to see everybody succeed in life, and I want to see everybody be happy in life. And we all have our own challenges, we all have our own differences, but we're all in this whole mess together. We're all people, we're all somehow flawed, and that's just the way life is. So, with that note, I will see you guys in the next video I make. Peace out.